The 1.0 pre-release patch just dropped for 7 days to die. In this patch, the graphics are updated, the zombies are harder, and the POIs have changed. I wanted to do something different for this 100 days. I'm going to play the first 50 days in the final alpha release, and then by day 50, we're going to make the switch to 1.0. That means by day 50, all of my previous progress is gone, and I will be restarting from scratch. But to make it a bit more interesting, I'm going to up the difficulty to insane with 64 zombie horde nights. Can I survive? Let's find out. This is episode 1 in a 10-part series, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. On day 1, I spawned into the world of Navisgain. I wiped my brow and got to work, and started rushing past the first level quests immediately. Once you complete these quests, you get 4 skill points, and I would mostly be doing a strength build with some intellect on the side. After blitzing my way through the starter quests, I made my way over to the trader, and wouldn't you know it was Trader Bob. Of course, I took out some of the ne'er-do-wells in my path, and once I got to Bob's compound, I started looting the place down. And I had an insane stint of luck. I got nerdy glasses on day 1. These are huge because they offer a 10% experience bonus, and they make it so you craft things a lot faster as well. So basically what I'm saying is I would never take these things off. Once I got done giving Bob's place the shakedown, I actually talked to the man himself. And normally, I don't like to judge a book by its cover, but let's just say old Bob here isn't allowed near playgrounds. I needed to make some money. Yes, even in the post-apocalyptic world, you still need to find a job, and I accepted a quick fetch quest from Bob. Before setting off on adventure, I wanted to organize my inventory and take stock on what I had. And as I was sorting through all of my stuff, this zombie gave me a little jump scare, and I put my axe into his head, and I poked him a few times too. Nearby, I harvested a tree quickly and crafted a storage box to hold all of my goods, so I wouldn't be encumbered while I was doing this mission. And with the utmost haste, I ran over to the quest location, and I immediately got the satchel. It was just a quick fetch quest. I'm not really interested in the endgame loot right now, since it's only a tier 1 and it's day 1, the loot wouldn't be that good either, so I just didn't worry about it. Upon returning to Bob, I accepted my quest rewards, and I'm gonna have to be honest, I didn't really like this area too much. It was just in the wilderness. There's nothing out here. So doing the exact opposite of what you would probably normally do in a zombie apocalypse survival situation, I went into the city, and I spent the majority of day 1 walking over to Trader Jen. Dusk was beginning to settle when I met Trader Jen, and I accepted a quick fetch quest from her, and I decided that I would just attempt to do this quest overnight since there was nothing else to do, and I made my way over to the quest location. Things did not go very well for me, however, because I ended up in a big scuffle. This nurse zombie came out of nowhere, and this spider, and I was fighting for my literal life. But through my ultimate combat prowess, I came out on top. Now the only problem was finding a way into this place. I could have done the normal route and went through the entire store and fought through hordes of zombies to get the satchel, but no, since I have a 6,000 IQ, I decided I would just break this floor and fetch the satchel this way. I did alert the zombie that was in the room next to me though, but it didn't know that I was behind the grate apparently, so it just started running the entire maze. And unfortunately, I got stuck. I was trying to find my way out, and I decided I would just build some ladders and climb my way out. Once again, I am the smartest man in the universe. I have the nerdy glasses to prove it. Unfortunately, I was dealing with very serious infection, and for those of you who don't know what an infection in this game is, pretty much after 7 days, you die. There you go. Wow, he said the title, guys. On the morning of day 2, while waiting for Trader Jen to open her doors for me, I decided I would go ahead and loot this crack-a-book. So, for those of you who have never played 7 Days to Die, I'll explain things very briefly here. Basically, this game is heavily RNG based. They made a skill point system based on how many books you can read, so books are the most valuable thing in this post-apocalyptic world. The only way you can craft better items, weapons, and materials is if you read a lot of books. My master plan to clear out all the zombies from this location was to just run inside real quick, wake everyone up, and then I would just leave the building and wait for them to form a nice conga line and then just take them out one at a time while backpedaling. It's simple, but very effective. After taking care of that small horde of zombies that infested the place, I decided I would go ahead and loot all the books. And what I like to do in these crack-a-book locations is I like to take all the books from all the bookshelves and load up my inventory till it's bursting at the seams with knowledge, and then I like to read all the books at once. once. It's such a huge dopamine rush. And after I was done looting that place, Jen finally opened up and I completed the mission. After accepting my quest rewards, I did a few more quests for Jen, and I'm not gonna bore you guys with all the details. You just go to a place, kill some zombies, fetch a satchel. The most notable location was this one right here where I farmed a tree, made a bunch of blocks, and pillared up to the satchel, Minecraft style. So I just did that and grabbed the satchel and I left. And all the while my infection was getting worse. I had no way to deal with this. I had no antibiotics on me. I had no honey, and honey clears infections up to 5%, I think is what it was. And the final quest I accepted from Jen was a buried treasure quest. These are kind of a mixed bag. I don't really like mucking around in the dirt too much, but sometimes you can get some really good loot from these, so I thought I would take a chance. After digging for about an hour or so, I was ambushed by a bunch of zombies, and well, let's just say I don't gotta worry about that infection anymore. I spawned back into the world and did the walk of shame to my backpack. I wasn't sure if there were still zombies in the area, and honestly, I wasn't willing to chance it. Oh, by the way, this isn't a hardcore run, because I'm not insane. Also, another explanation. So, once you die in 7 days to die, you get an XP penalty, and you have to pay back your debt. I don't really mind this system, because it makes it so death actually has a consequence, and it's just more of an inconvenience than a hassle. I don't mind it too much, it's alright. On the morning of day 3, I decided to escape my little hidey hole, and I went back into the city. I eventually stumbled upon this Working Stiff Tools superstore, and I began looting the grills out front, looking for a cooking grate. And, luckily for me, the first grill I had opened, there was a cooking grate waiting for me. This thing is an upgrade for the campfire, and it would allow me to create grilled meat instead of burnt meat, which is great for my tummy, and I wouldn't have to subsist on Chef Boyardee forever. Of course, all the zombies in the area took a keen interest in what I was up to, so I had to show them my Skibbity Ohio Riz with my club upside their head. And we went gat for gat. I still have no idea what any of this means. Eventually Trader Jen did open. I bought a few Mega Crushes for the next upcoming missions, and I was over encumbered, so I stored all of my loot inside of this minivan, and I would forget about it the majority of this playthrough. Whoops. I drank my Mega Crush, and what this does is it allows me to run at supersonic speeds, and it gives me an energy bonus. I got to the gas station, which was my quest location, and I started clearing out all the zombies. And pay attention to this radio tower back here, this is going to be very important for later. After completing a slew of missions for Jen, I accepted the ultimate quest reward in this tier, which was the bicycle. The bicycle was huge. It would open up the world of 7 days to die for me. No longer would I be constrained by running with my own 2 legs, nay, I would use my own 2 legs to propel a vehicle in forward motion. It wasn't the coolest looking vehicle around, but hey, you know what? It's way better than walking. And since I had nothing better to do after completing all the quests for Jen to earn the bicycle, I went deeper into the city to explore, and I ran into my first feral. Ferals are the upgraded version of your basic zombie. They can sprint at all times of day, and they hit like a brick house. And you can always tell if they're a feral by looking at their eyes, and of course if they run. I found this mini crack-a-book store, and I went inside and started looting all of the books. There were some sleeping zombies guarding the area. They weren't a problem. I went further into the building to explore around for a bit, and as I was looking around, I got ambushed by another feral zombie, and it scared the crap out of me. The feral zombie almost took me out, and I suffered an abrasion, and I got another infection. But through sheer determination, I managed to come out on top, with a sliver of health left. I didn't want to double my money for today, and I left. I decided on hiding out in this garage the entire night, and I took care of the squatter that was sleeping on the floor, and I just went AFK for the rest of the night. On the morning of day 4, I went back to Jen's compound. Unfortunately, she wasn't open yet, and with little to do, I went inside of this processing plant to poke around for some hidden loot. The only thing I found inside, however, was a bunch of zombies, and the zombies did not take kindly to my trespass. I steeled myself for the battle ahead and began bonking zombies on the head. Luck was not on my side. As I was backpedaling, I stepped over this forklift. My club missed this zombie, but the zombie did not miss me. It got a very lucky hit in, and I began bleeding out in game, which promptly led to my death. Yep, so I died in game, and I died on the inside. After doing another walk of shame, I grabbed my stuff and made my way to the top of the processing plant. The loot inside of this crate was very not worth it. I didn't really pay much attention to the zombies. I just ran back to Jen Jen because she was open at this time, and with another quest in hand, I ran over to the quest location. It was just another fetch quest. I had no problems dealing with the zombies inside, and for this mission, I decided I'd add a little zazz. I did the most redneck thing ever and drank a bunch of beer out of a mason jar, and I took all the zombies clubbing. I grabbed the satchel and looted the place down. At this time, I could have just left. The mission was complete, and I could have just left. But I didn't. I heard a zombie snarling around here somewhere. It turns out a biker zombie was caught under the floorboards, and I fell right on top of him. I tried jumping out of the hole, and it didn't work. The only option now was to fight for my life. It came down to the wire, but I clutched out a W. Unfortunately, I became infected once again. And on top of that, my stone axe was broken, so it took forever to get out of here. Before I returned back to Jen, I noticed a supply drop, and these are great because they offer a bunch of interesting loot. In this one, I got a pipe machine gun bundle, and this pipe machine gun would prove very useful later. Once I got back to Jen, I accepted my quest rewards, and this time I decided to play Exterminator. This was my first infested clear mission, and these are great because they give you a ton of ammo at the end of them. It was getting a little bit too late for that, and I wasn't going to make it before nightfall, so it was time to find my permanent base location. And you remember that radio tower I told you about a few days ago? Well, that's going to be my forever home. But before I could stake my claim, I have to clear out all the zombies on the inside. Who's up for a little zombie barbecue, hey? I had spent the entire night fighting zombies, and I got a little too rambunctious with the Molotov cocktails, and I accidentally lit myself on fire. Well, at least I don't gotta worry about that infection anymore, huh? As the sun rose, I made my way over to the quest location, which was about 1.3 kilometers. This game takes place in America. Why aren't we using freedom units? Oh well, I don't understand the inferior metric system. And the first zombie I encountered outside of this house was a biker. He was kind of a pushover though. I started the quest and made light work of all the zombies inside of the house with my pipe machine gun. And as I was clearing out the house, I got infected yet again. This is becoming ridiculous. And as I cleared the infestation, I began to leave to return to Jen. I made it about halfway down the block when I realized, oh, I didn't grab the infested cache. So quickly, I turned around, looted all the ammunition, and then returned back to Jen. I wanted to get a head start on gathering steel bars for motorcycles and gyrocopters later on, so I accepted that as my quest reward. After I was finished meeting with Jen, I headed back home, and wanted to place down a floor so I wouldn't fall through the cracks and be eaten by homeless people. The zombies in the area were very interested in what I was doing, and like nosy neighbors, they got a Molotov cocktail for their efforts. After cleaning up a little bit, I needed more wood to upgrade my floor. So at night, I went out and farmed some trees, and I hunted some deer. The leather was going to be important because I wanted to craft myself a forge, and like any 100 days playthrough, a forge is probably the most important thing. I don't know, I'm trying to pad out the script. Hi, how are you today? Leave a comment below, let me know. Then, restart the video to give me some engagement. I spent a good majority of day 6 placing down a floor to my base. I wanted my crafting stations to be very high off of the ground because the zombies have a tendency to mess with them if they're too low to the ground, and they'll attract screamers. We'll see these later. As I was placing down a floor, zombies invaded my home. And this wasn't a one-off thing. Oh no. It felt like every 3 minutes I was under attack. So what should have been a 2-hour at maximum chore took all day. I eventually got the floor placed though, and I crafted up that forge. And instead of hanging out at base all night, I wanted to be proactive and began biking my way over to the next quest location. But since I have no long-term planning skills, I left home without eating dinner first. So when I reached the next town, I was on the brink of starvation, and I ran into an encampment of soldier zombies. These guys are slightly tougher than the normal variant, mostly because they have armor, and I have a wooden stick. So, as you can imagine, things were kinda rough. But I eventually figured it out. I used the tried and true strategy of just walking backwards and smacking them on the head. I was getting desperate for food, however, and my stomach was screaming at me for nourishment. So, left with little choice, I headed across the road to the gas station. The only thing I found were more zombies that wanted to make me a morsel. I checked all the vehicles I could to see if I could find anything to eat, and they yielded me nothing. Now I was dying of dehydration as well. I could have went into the diner and fought all the zombies at night, but that would have been a very stupid idea. So I just hid out at the camp for the rest of the night, and a massive horde of zombies showed up. The next day when the sun rose, I took care of that horde that showed up the night prior. I steeled myself and mustered up all the courage I can to raid the Passing Gas station. I fought through hordes of the undead, and I actually did find enough food to satiate my hunger. Now that I was well fed, the only thing that was wrong with me was dehydration. I couldn't find any drinks, but I did notice on the map that there was a lake up north. Slowly, I made my way over and began drinking. I greedily gulped down the water, and I got dysentery. And actually, I died because I kept drinking the water. I didn't know you could die to dysentery in this game. Who knew? For the record, I only have about 400 hours in this game. I'm not a 7 days to die expert by any means, so I'm going to make mistakes throughout this playthrough. Thank you for your patience. Now that I had a new lease on life, it was time to clear out the quest location that I had agreed upon. When I arrived, I parked my bike, and I ran into the gas station, guns blazing. Well, not really guns blazing, more like club swinging. It's hard to be funny when you're sad, okay? This feral zombie slapped me so hard, I got really dizzy for a second, and he chunked a good portion of my health as well. I was done playing around though, and I dropped him like a bad habit, and then I took care of the rest of the zombies. The loot at the end of this quest wasn't wild. In fact, it was pretty mild. Really forgettable, honestly. The most exciting thing was probably the lamb rations. Nevertheless, with the quest complete though, I returned to Jen. As I was biking back to Jen, I realized that it was Horde night. I haven't built a Horde base at all. The only thing I could do in this scenario was hide out on top of a roof for the entire night, and that's exactly what I did. I pillared my way up to the safety of this roof, and the only one guarding the area was this big mama, and I put her down. I had noticed the end loot here on the POI as well, and I decided to loot that. As the blood moon enveloped the land, the Horde came for me. Honestly, it was kind of a breeze. I just hid up on this roof all night, nothing too wild. I did, however, get a little bit too close to the sledge, and I slipped and fell. But luckily, I had my pipe machine gun on me, and it was the first Horde of the playthrough, so it wasn't too crazy. And I just waited for the sun to come up so I could talk to Jen. When the blood moon had subsided and the sun rose, I returned to Trader Jen to turn in my quest and accept my quest rewards graciously. And since I was here, I went ahead and accepted another quest. This time it was clearing out a car dealership. And it was your fairly standard affair. Just go in, bonk the zombies on the head till they stop moving, and look at that. I got another infection. This makes infection number 8. I've gone every day in this playthrough with being infected. This is becoming mind-numbingly insane. It feels like they stealth buffed the zombies giving you infections or something. Anyway, I finished clearing out this location, and for my efforts, I was rewarded a tier 6 wooden club. This was amazing. It would allow me to one-shot zombies now. Almost. After I finished clearing out the location, and I had my fill of the end dungeon loot, I poked my head outside to leave, when I heard an explosion. A horde of zombies was approaching my location, and they had caused a car to explode, sending them flying everywhere. I sprang into action and gave him the old 1, 2, 3, 4. Eventually, I found myself over at Jen's place once again, and I used my quest rewards to buy myself some much-needed antibiotics, and I got myself healed up. And because I'm crazy, I accepted another clear mission from her. This time it was at a house. I don't really want to bore you guys with the details, so we'll just speedrun going through this place. Hi-ya! By the time everything was said and done, it was nighttime, and the zombies entered their sprint mode. So I had to be very diligent, and under the cover of night, I made it back home safe and sound, and waited for the dawn. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, on day 8, I actually got myself a double-barreled shotgun from Jen's quest rewards, and I wanted to test it out this morning. Yeah, of course I missed my first shot, but the next shot, whoo, buddy, I was feeling pretty groovy. I made my way over once again to Trader Jen's place, and at the time I was very thirsty, so I went ahead and bought a bunch of drinks from her vending machine. And of course, I took the crafting skill bundle. I accepted some close by quests, and I didn't really want to fuss around with the bike too much, so I just drank a Mega Crush and ran over to the quest location. And for this one, I just let my shotgun do most of the talking. I had found the quest satchel, and I worked my way up to the end dungeon loot. Yeah, it was mostly just garbage. And once I wrapped it up there, I returned back to Jen to accept my quest rewards. This time, I took the steel bar. I decided to stick around and see what Jen was selling today, and I saw it. A quality 5 baseball bat. This was the weapon for me. I specialized in strength after all, especially the club. So buying this baseball bat seemed like a no-brainer. Unfortunately, I was a bit short on cash. Luckily, I was in the midst of doing another mission. So I zoomed as fast as I could over to the quest location and began clearing out all of the zombies with my shotgun. I made it back, bought the baseball bat, and I was overjoyed. The club was good enough for my caveman ancestors, but it wasn't good enough for me, so it was time to say sayonara. I removed the mods from the club and put them on my bat, and I headed into the city to find a zombie to test it out on. And yep, I would say it works pretty well. I was kind of tired, so I decided to head back home for the rest of the day. I got myself organized and just chilled out for the rest of the night. The morning of day 10, I left the comfort and safety of my base and headed out to find more zombies to test my baseball bat on, like this spider and this person. I honestly didn't do much today. I'd felt great about all the progress I'd been making in the past 9 days, and I decided I'd just go ahead and take it easy today. But of course, I wanted to keep my forward momentum going as much as I could, so I accepted another quest from Jen. I went into this house and put my new bat to work. And she's out of there. I returned back to Jen, accepted my quest loot, and I noticed another supply drop in the distance, so I went to go check that one out. It was a food bundle this time, and it would come in very handy. And I accepted another fetch and clear quest for Jen. Nothing interesting really happened. I just went in, steamrolled all of the zombies in my path, retrieved the supplies, returned to Jen, accepted some forged steel, and I just went home for the rest of the day.